Hey guys, and welcome to the first actual video of the semester outside of the how do you do the first discussion board. I had originally made previous videos for the class, but particularly low lighting sort of prevented those videos from actually being usable. I have a nice light loud that has this nice light loud that you'll probably see reflected on my glasses through half the video. But let's get going. So this first video is really going to cover how I'm going to grade the News of the Week assignment. News of the Week number 3, the intersectional approach. So if you guys haven't figured out right now, I have a rubric in which I grade everything. Rubrics keep things fair, they make things easy. They should ideally tell you what it is I'm grading. Now, every assignment I give you, especially with essays, I break down into paragraphs for you. So you'll have your introduction paragraph, which I'll tell you what I want. You'll have your first body paragraph, I'll tell you what I want, and I'll break it down via paragraphs. So you have your second, your third, and your conclusion. So let's go ahead and go over the basic points of what this News of the Week assignment's going to be. Now, this is different from your previous News of the Weeks, which were just these quiz formats where you answer questions in essay boxes, and I just grade them like click, 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 you answer. Here, you're actually starting to move from those questions into an actual essay format, which is always the goal of the News of the Week. They're never just supposed to be these quiz formats, which you do for me every week. You have now by notice they're all a bit formulaic. That's not going to go away. I'm sorry. That continues throughout the semester, and it kind of shows me. And why it does that is it's really supposed to have you guys experience what it is like to be critical readers of news, and also how to understand other sides of an argument and to put yourself in other people's shoes. So let's break down how the rubric is going to look and how the actual assignment looks. So for the rubric, it's done in 5 sections: your introduction, first, second, third body paragraphs, and a conclusion. And it doesn't go into great depth and detail that I'm looking for. Have you met all the requirements and you did this amazing job? Then you'll get an exceeds. Have you just met the bare basics of the requirements? You get a meet. Are you missing 1 or 2 of the requirements as it's outlined within the actual assignment itself? You'll get deemed 2 approaches, and if you're just missing several of the requirements, I don't fail you, but I give you, I hate to say it's like the meme you tried, but it's not, I appreciate the effort that you did try to put into this. We do have a lot to work on, but you did make the attempt to come at it, right? So here's how each one's going to work. The introduction paragraph. All your requirements are here. You're not going to see them in the rubric, but you're going to see them on the assignments. So your basic introduction for paragraphs is going to tell me the name and the author of the article, and you're going to provide an in-text citation of the article. So basically, you've been just putting the link within these boxes. Now you're actually providing the citation. I accept MLA, I accept APA, I accept ASA. Please do not just stick a link in there. I need to see that you're actually following citation formats of either 3 of those styles. So the next part is you're going to state the level at which the news article takes place and at which level it's going to impact society. You need to be very specific on this. So one of the trends I've noticed in the first 2 assignments, the ones where you just fill in like an answer, you guys have been putting in like national, because it's a national news source and it's going to impact people at a national level. And really, I haven't been grading off if you haven't met both the assignments. Like if you put national, I get what you're trying to say, it happens at both levels. But now you really do have to be specific. You have to tell me if it's happening at a national level and it's impacting at a national level. You just can't put national and get points for it. That's a requirement that you're not meeting, so then you'll go into approaches. So make sure you're citing both the level at which it was written and the level at which it's going to impact. And then you're going to go ahead and tell me how this article relates to 2 or more identities: class, race, ethnicity, gender, sexuality. You have to go ahead and figure out 2 identities that your article is focusing on. In the last News of the Week we had a lot of articles that focused on both class and race. Those articles are good because you're looking at 2 different identities. Let's go ahead and see if we can find that again. This week you actually have a lot of news coming out about Justice Alito and Justice Thomas on the Supreme Court. Go ahead and say that they believe that they should roll back Obergefell versus Hodges, which if you remember from chapter 5, it is the court decision that gave same-sex couples the right to marry. That's one way you can look at gender identities, and if you can find one that actually impacts how this will financially impact people, you can go ahead and put class in there as well. We want to see how one identity will intersect with the other, right? Make sure you revisit Chapter 4 or watch the 2 videos in the supplemental sections for this week to go ahead and to remind yourself what intersectionality is. That's just the introductory paragraph. Make sure you meet 1, 2, 3 different things I want from you. Name an author, level it impacts, level it's written at, 2 different things. In what way does the article relate to 2 different identities? If you only give me one, that's going to be a requirement off, right? And the whole point of this is that you're actually looking at 2 different identities. So that's how you'll get graded on the rubric. First body paragraph, you're going to tell me what the article is about, you're going to summarize it very briefly, and then you're going to tell me who the claims maker is. Are they insiders? Are they outsiders? Are they activists or experts? It's okay if you don't have a very clear claims maker within the article itself. You can go ahead and keep using the author, but some articles will have a claims maker in there. So go ahead and try to find it out and figure out where they are on their claims maker spectrum. So that itself is one requirement for the brief summary. Make sure you're hitting the main points. Second requirement is who's the claims maker. Third requirement is insider, outsider. Fourth is activist, expert. You have 4 different requirements. Make sure you're hitting all of them, or you will get points deducted according to the rubric. Second body paragraph is going to ask the questions, 2 requirements. Who created this message and its purpose, which is, guess, 2 requirements in 1 question. And also you're going to tell me what kind of techniques they use to hold attention. So go ahead and revisit your first 2 weeks of the social problems process, because there are several ways you would kind of get people into looking at your claim. You might use humor, you might use comedy, you might have this really catchy, sensational headline. We live in the era of Twitter. We have 140 characters. Is it still 140 characters? We have 140 characters to get people's attention to listen to our claim. Are they doing that? Some might just provide facts and be very on its face about how they want to present their argument, and people might like that at a news source. I say might. They do like that at a news source. They don't want the BS, they just want the meat and potatoes. Think about that. What technique does it use? You technically have 3 requirements but 2 prompts, right? So you need to tell me who created the message. You need to tell me what is the purpose. The third requirement is then going to be what does it do to catch your attention and hold it. But there's your 3 requirements that you'll grade on. If you're missing 1, you go down to an approaches. If you're missing 2 and poorly explain the third, you'll go down to one below. The third body paragraph answer the question of who's writing this, what type of way are they writing it to, who are they writing it to, and how people who are outside that audience going to read this news article. So we haven't really had a chance to go over this in class, but certain news outlets definitely appeal to certain segments or certain what we call publics within society. When you talk about stuff like the New York Times and the Washington Post, some of those articles you can find free online, but some of them they're behind a paywall. That's the right way to say it. So your average everyday person isn't going to pay money. Even libraries out here, it's kind of hard for libraries to get subscriptions for these newspapers. So then you have to assume that whoever is writing this is writing towards a very specific public. Somebody who probably has a subscription. So again, probably middle to upper class, where you can afford that type of luxury instead of just going to the store and getting something from Tampa Bay Times. It's free. Some of them are written at a higher reading level than others. They might include $5 words, and you might include concepts that might not be known to average people. So you're assuming a more educated audience than others. And then when you have something more at a local level, especially in a small community, you're going to have something that's going to be written really for everybody. You're going to have something that's going to have a much lower reading level to make sure all people within your audience can understand it. And you may get certain news pieces than other news pieces. So I am from a place called Hammond in a small parish called Tangipahoa. The Hammond newspaper is the Daily Star, and they really cover community pieces, right? What's going on in the community? Let's check out our local farmers market. Did you see this business opening in town? Stuff like that. You're not going to get a huge, heavy hitting news article. So it's really focusing on the publics. And because also Hammond, the parish of Tangipahoa, which you guys call counties, there is a higher poverty rate within those areas. You also have lower educational attainment. So there's really things to keep in mind when you're looking at how these articles are written. So when I'm asking what lifestyles, values, and points of view does it depict, you have to really think about who's writing the article and to what public it's coming into. So we really never discussed that in class, and since the videos I have done previously have not been viewable to the public, I really want to get this across now so we can start working on really thinking critically about where our news is coming from and who it's actually written for. So that's going to be one requirement. And if you don't hit it right the first time, that's fine. But as long as you're giving it some thought, you're really thinking about this, you're trying to think about it, hit the requirement. How might different people interpret this message? Think of who the audience is again. So if your audience of the paper is one specific group of people, what are other specific groups of people going to think about it? So think along the lines also in an intersectional lens of class, gender, race, ethnicity, locale. Remember, that's important when I say that the people of Hammond, Louisiana are reading this paper that's really community driven, focusing on their needs and values, and then you take it up to a national level that might not necessarily meet their needs and values. So yeah, COVID-19 is a big thing. It's a huge pandemic, but for the people of Hammond, Louisiana, if you've been checking out their Daily Star, like I have, because I keep in touch with them, that's not really where they're at. National politics sort of trickled down to them. So when there were the Black Lives Matter protests going on in the summer, yeah, they commented on it in the fact that they ran several Back the Blue articles and also made a plea to uphold police funding, which the people in Hammond, Louisiana are absolutely for. They love their police. And they sort of also view the Black Lives Matter protests through a very derogatory lens. So keep that in mind when you're writing this. How are other people, race, class, gender, ethnicity, and even locale going to interpret an article that maybe wasn't written for them? So now for this paper, what you're going to do is you're not only going to think, you're going to provide an outside source. So this is a source separate from your news article. And it's going to back up essentially your argument over what lifestyles are being depicted in the paper. But more importantly, I really want you guys to understand how might different audiences see this. So if you're looking at the news of maybe Trump was diagnosed with COVID-19 and very briefly stayed in the hospital and he's now out and better, there's been a lot of talk about how President Trump really benefited from having best doctors in the world who were giving him medications that's not necessarily available, or not that it's not necessarily available, but he's being treated at a much faster rate than people who are being treated in other hospitals. Like he was given steroids a lot quicker than other doctors say they would actually give their patients. But it led to a quicker recovery. So you have a lot of people really going, well, that's not available for everybody. Give me some information. How do they know it's not available to everybody? What do people who don't have that access say? And sometimes it's really hard to get that type of specificity. But I had a student email me, and what I told them to do was if you could find like a Pew Research poll about what people are saying who might be of lower class, who might be in minority neighborhoods, who might have a different sexuality and already have this sort of confrontational relationship with healthcare as it is. How are they going to feel about it? And you don't have to look specifically at COVID-19 or how Donald Trump has received this high level of care, but you can look at how they review their general care in the areas around them. If you don't have that, find me information that backs up the claim, right? What kind of care are they getting? There's ways to look at this and try to figure out what actually people are saying and then back up the argument with that. And that's really kind of what I want you to do. I don't want you to just project what you think people are thinking. I want you to actually find something that would inform that as well. So you don't just want to say, I think somebody's going to think differently about this, but give me some proof that they might actually think differently about this. It doesn't have to be specific to your news article, especially if you're looking at a public research center, which takes weeks and months to do research. Pew Research doesn't just like do a poll the week that the news article comes out and you have a public research opinion. No, you're going to need to find something, and it might not be recent, but you can relate it to the piece you're working on. God, that was a lot. Tell me the lifestyles. Tell me how people are going to interpret it differently. Provide me a source. If you do not provide me a source, you lose all points. I need to know that you're actually going to back up what you're saying with some type of a source. Using outside information is really important, and making sure you're backing up every step of the way is also super important. So you should have, at this point, 2 citations in your paper, the article citation and your outside source. Make sure you have 2 citations in whatever your works cited / bibliography is going to look like. Your conclusion. So here, what is omitted or left out? You have to be very critical about the news you receive. Are they telling you the whole story? Especially when we think about the Black Lives Matter protests, where we had several news articles saying this is what happens and this is what is happening, and then you have an entirely different news audience where they're getting this is what happens and this is what's happening. So that's your job. You need to find that middle ground of what is omitted or left out. And if you really can't find the middle ground, think about what could be said, which is a lot of what you guys have been doing in your previous assignments. You're thinking about what could be said, and I think that's very important as well. So you have that, what is omitted or left out. Please don't say nothing. You will definitely lose this requirement. And the second one is going to be, why is this article important? So what is it about this article that makes it so good? Why is it important? Why? Do we need to know something about it? Is it telling us about a social problem that we didn't understand before? Go ahead and try to elaborate on that. You have 4 to 6 sentences to fill up here, so make sure you're hitting those points. Length requirements. Remember, you have certain length requirements within each of these, right? So your introduction and conclusion is 4 to 6 sentences, and your body paragraphs are going to be 4 to 8 sentences. I will take off a point if you guys are not meeting length requirements. You will also have a style section of mechanics and prompt spent. Mechanics just refers to, can I tell you proofread this beforehand? I try to be pretty lenient on spelling because spell check doesn't always catch up everything. But if it looks like if it looks unreadable is when I really hit you for style. Are prompts met? You might have like one of the body paragraphs where you didn't meet a prompt, but if you are sort of bordering on 2 or more that are just missing prompt requirements, you're also getting hit on style. That's 4 points. Make sure you're hitting every requirement that you need, and you're gonna be good. Remember, I grade on the rubric. Did you meet this requirement? Did you meet this requirement? And I just go down the list. And it's also kind of safeguards you guys, because a lot of you guys have different opinions. And I want to make it very clear, don't grade on opinion. So when I'm looking at this rubric and I'm looking at what I'm grading, did you meet the requirements? Are you using terms correctly? That's what I'm grading on. I'm not going to think about really anything else. So that's how I'm going to be grading News of the Week number 3, the intersectional approach to news. I hope to see some really interesting essays coming in, and also just a really good analysis of what you guys are thinking about.